What's up, everybody? It's Lucas from the Pipe House Podcast coming at you with another episode of The Draft of Us. I just finished watching the second episode of The Last of Us on HBO, and all I can say is I have a feeling that this show is going to be my top show of 2023, even though it's only January. This show is doing all the right things when it comes to portraying the video game in the right way. And throughout this episode, you get another outlook of how it started, but on the other side of the world in Indonesia. And they came up with the answer there that it's too late, that all we can do is bomb. And you see that when Joel, Tess, and Ellie are walking through Boston, and you're seeing all the craters and the buildings that have been blown up because of the bombings when the outbreak first happened. Um, and as always, with every episode, I'm going to be pairing a beer with it. And the beer that I'm pairing with it today is The Bones of the Things Around Us. It's a double IPA, and it's a collaboration from Fidens and Troon. So I was able to go to Fidens right after Thanksgiving, and I found my second can of this, and felt like this was excellent beer. Did that complemented this episode great, uh, especially when they get to the hotel and they're trying to make their way to the state building, and Ellie, being a 14-year-old kid inside this hotel, the first time she's probably ever been inside of a hotel before, goes up to the front desk and plays with the bell and pretends that she's checking into the biggest suite that they have, and then she moves the luggage cart and the skeleton falls down, probably the person who worked at the front desk. um so yeah, there was a lot of death in this episode. If you played the video game, you knew Tess was not going to be in this season very long. So spoiler for that if you haven't watched it or played the video game that came out, don't know how many years ago now, but it's been a while. Yeah, Tess. Cheers to you, Tess. Uh, thanks for everything you did. Uh, you were great in the show. Sucks that you had to go so early. I wouldn't be surprised if the start of episode 3, you see Tess in Detroit and how she starts with the apocalypse, because they kind of been doing, as far as I can tell, I mean, only 2 episodes in, but the first little bit of each episode has been the precursor of the whole outbreak, which I'm totally fine with. I'm totally fine with that. Um, it's kind of expanding on the universe of The Last of Us, which is, in my opinion, great, and I think it's going to help give the show a bigger backbone, and maybe even they'll be able to take some of this and they'll probably be making another type of Last of Us game, probably some kind. I haven't finished Last of Us Part 2, so I don't know how that ends. But they could always do a prequel, or just start it from a different part of the world and just have a different story. But and they could do Tommy's story, unless that's how The Last of Us 2 ends, and I have no idea. So, well, what else happened in the episode? They start off in Indonesia, and then they continue their journey, and you really start to see how much the infection has spread and how much the infection has died off. When they ended the show differently than how the events take place in the game, and I get it. It was able for them to. I watched the end of credits, like post scene, like how they kind of explain certain stuff, and it's the first episode that we see a full fledged clicker. So it was really great to see those. And they were really creepy. The sounds, the actors who are in the clicker costumes are absolutely killing it. But you see how Joel is really reacting to dealing with Ellie, who is bit. And then later in the episode, she kind of gets bit again, and Tess also gets bit. And he really starts to realize that this kid, Ellie, is definitely the could be the savior. Could be the savior of this whole problem. But it is now on him because when they finally get to the state house, after going through the museum and seeing kind of that dried out fungal network, I guess. But in that post credits explanation, they said that in the video game you could see the different pollen and stuff like that. How the infection would spread during the video game is they would have it through either being bitten or through the spores, but they can't really show the spores in a TV show, so they invented this other thing where it's like that thin, like almost like a root system, where it can be triggered, and that's like the string that you see coming out of the clicker's mouth and all that, and that's how they communicate. Because if you step in a nest of it, it could let clickers know like a mile away where you are, and they'll come to you. And that's how the episode ended. Instead of the army finding Tess in the state building and Tess holding off the army, a bunch of the fireflies are found dead, and they start to come back to life through being infected. And Tess blows them up with a bunch of grenades and some gasoline or diesel or whatever it was, some type of fuel that just blew up. But it was cool to see that aspect of it because it shows how they can go into the show more in depth with how the infection spreads compared to how, I guess I don't want to say easier, but not as complicated as it was to show the spores in the video game. But overall, this was a really good episode. I was upset when it ended because I was like, "Oh, just give me that little bit more," because I can't wait. Nick Offerman's coming back. I'm a big fan of him, and I'm excited to see who he's playing in the next episode, hopefully. So that should be good. And to everybody out there on the internet, no, Rick Grimes was not in this episode. That was a total lie. Andrew Lincoln and Rick Grimes will not be in The Last of Us, which I thought when I first heard it, I thought it was real, and I thought it was like a little spoof, like they're just playing homage to The Walking Dead, just for being the longest running type of show like that on TV and how long it's been going and stuff like that. So, well, anyway, let's get on with this beer review here. The bones of the things around us. You got to see the bones of the skeleton. You got to see the clickers in this episode, and you got to see the bones of Boston. And I've been in that city a few times, and that place where the zombie horde is, I've been there, uh, and kind of sucked to saw it like that because as a Celtics fan, I love the city of Boston. So here we go with this. Oh, there it goes. I got too distracted talking to the camera. Now I'm spilling beer on my desk. This beer is really good. It's absolutely delicious. Fidens is a fun little brewery to go to. I was only able, they don't exactly have a tap room, but it was still cool to be back there in Albany, and one of the few breweries that I've actually been to in Albany. So, this beer is absolutely delicious. It's hoppy, but it's not too overwhelming to the point where you're not enjoying that stone fruit flavor that you would get. Has kind of like a peachy earthiness to it. It's very well rounded, Very delicious. And now, if only I could try a Troon original, that would be ideal. But this beer right here, I'm dedicating to Tess. Gone, but not forgotten. Cheers to you, and thank you for being so awesome in the show. All right, and that brings us to an end of another episode of The Draft of Us. Cheers, everybody, and I'll catch you next time.